Good morning. So I have my voice back a little bit. So first of all, I want to look at it. So we're under construction here. So for everybody that I am breeding dogs. I have 10 dogs, 9 that are breeding dogs that I take care of myself. I am in construction. I have one older trailer here. I am getting ready to sell. And then I have the little house here where we stay with the dogs. And I'm here because my mom is sick. So my mom has cancer, and we're hoping that she's going to make it through it, but I literally moved from one state to another so I could be near my mom. So everything here and around me is under construction and, quite frankly, a disaster. But I want to talk about the ethics of breeding versus adopting, right? So buying from a breeder versus adopting. I think they're both great. Now, what I don't like is when people say, adopt, don't shop, and that somehow breeders are what are making all of the dog world so much worse for dogs. Well, all of our temporary fencing there, excuse me. And this is Churian, and this is Kylea and Dracara. So I keep my dogs out at different times. I rotate them so that they can each all play with each other and get used to being with other dogs. But if everybody remembers COVID a little bit, COVID, everybody was suddenly at home, and every single shelter got empty of dogs. And I mean empty, like shelters had no dogs to adopt. Do you know what they did? Do you think they celebrated that? Do you think all these wonderful shelters that save all these dogs, which they do, and I appreciate them. Do you think they just celebrated that they had empty shelters? No, they imported dogs from other countries, making the overpopulation of dog problems in our country way worse than it was before. Because now, not only do we have all the dogs produced here, we brought in a bunch of dogs from other countries and overpopulated our country even more, and brought in diseases and genetic things that maybe weren't present. So we just went ahead and brought in a bunch of dogs from other countries, and then filled those shelters right back up again as quick as they could. Because, man, I mean, you're a shelter. You can't have empty cages or no one will give you money, or no one will adopt, and then you won't have any money coming in, and then your volunteers will go away, and then. Now, I want you to go into one of these shelters, which, again, I love shelters. I donate to them. I think they're wonderful. But I'm done with the idea that shelters are this shiny example of the only place you should get a dog, and that breeders are the evil thing that made all these problems bad. When you go into a shelter, you will be lucky to find 25% of those dogs are purebred. Maybe. That's a really high content shelter of purebred dogs. Like, it's nearly impossible to find a shelter that is over 25% purebred dogs. Why is that? Because the breeders are so irresponsible? Why aren't these shelters just filled to the brim with purebred dogs? Well, they're not. Now, some puppy mills that comes in, and especially if a shelter takes on a puppy mill, which we're doing maybe purebred dogs, half the time they might be doing these doodles. They're not purebred. You're so mad at purebred? What about all these doodles? They're not even trying to make them a real breed. They just take a couple dogs, throw them in the backyard, and breed them together. No testing, no history, no pedigree, nothing. So I am somehow, and I've gotten some shit about this. That's why I wanted to address it in a video. I'm not going to hide from it. That I'm somehow doing this evil thing because I'm breeding dogs. Most of the breeders I know, they take their dogs back. No questions asked. If there's any problem with any dog that they have placed in a home, most of the breeders I know take them back. And if you're dealing with a breeder that doesn't, then maybe you should pick a new breeder. Maybe your problem with purebred breeders is that you haven't dealt with a quality one. Now, when you look into these shelters and you find that they're filled with mutts, where did those mutts come from? Did they come from breeders, responsible breeders, who register their dogs, who paid a large amount of money for those dogs initially? They have a huge investment in them. They generally feed good food because they want healthy puppies because they're going to sell those puppies. You think you make a lot of money selling puppies? What, average puppy litter is maybe 6 puppies, maybe a couple of grand per puppy. That's like 18 grand for a litter. If you do anything right, you've spent 5 or 6 grand on that litter before they've even gone out the door. Then you have any of the commitments that you keep to your puppy buyers, which hopefully you have someone that does. Then the amount of money that they've invested in their breeding dogs, if they've done it right. Hopefully they've done OFA, which we do. Hopefully they've done DNA testing, which we do. Hopefully they take their dogs to the vet even, which we do. What I don't like the idea of is that these shelters are somehow the greatest thing since sliced bread. No, they aren't. What happens is that these shelters give a place for backyard breeders with zero responsibility. I just happen to have 2 dogs, one's a male, one's a female, and I was not responsible enough to fix them. So now they've bred. Now all those puppies I put on Craigslist, I sold as many as I could for $300 to $500, pocketed, invested nothing in them. Lucky if those puppies even have their first shots, let alone any shots. So they're going to go home and have parvo, which means that poor family is going to be completely consumed with vet bills if their puppy even lives. Yet all the breeders I've ever gotten a dog from, I normally have at least 2 parvo shots before they've come home. They are very protected. I have very seldom gotten a puppy from a breeder that got sick. Now, what shelters do, which is great, again, I'm not knocking them, but what they do is they give this off-ramp for all these backyard breeders. How many shelters do you know are promoting breeding laws that require, if you breed a dog, that you have a license? And if you don't, you get a huge fine that costs you well more than you can make off those Craigslist doodle puppies. Okay? So does the shelter that you do they promote laws that require breeding licenses? Now, I just moved from a state temporarily that does not have any breeding licenses at all. You can breed as many dogs as you want a year. You can have as many puppies. You can have them all go to shelters. You can be a real piece of crap, and you can breed dogs. Move to another state where you need to have a breeding license. So you think, oh God, it's so much better in that state with a breeding license. Why? It's not enforced. I live in a little neighborhood that you can tell probably every single neighbor's popped out a bunch of pit bull cross labs or whatever else got in with their dog. So I'm an irresponsible breeder because I take all my puppies back. I breed only dogs that have been DNA tested. I am very responsible about who I place them with. I have a low ratio of dogs that I've lost track of, which is really hard to say. I mean, I really like, owners that just stopped like communicating for whatever reason. Sometimes, you're just their dog breeder. You're not in their life. Even when you do your best as a breeder to try to keep track of your puppies from the time they're born till they die, that's nearly impossible. That's 15 years worth of expecting a family to want to talk to you all the time. Now, I do my best, and I have quite a few that I've kept long-term relationships with from puppyhood till that puppy's passing as an older adult. But that's rare. As hard as you even try as a breeder, that's rare. I really think the people who want to judge with the adopt, don't shop, and all this need to start judging the right people. And the right people are not responsible breeders. The right people is your neighbor. The person you should be judging is your neighbor down the street that did not fix their dog, let their dogs breed, and went ahead and sold a bunch of puppies or took them down to the shelter. So I think maybe some of this adopt, don't shop has gotten a real misleading name, a real misleading process. So when COVID really showed that to any of us breeders that did actually have some sympathy for that, well, yeah. And then you saw COVID happen and you saw shelters buying and shipping dogs in from other countries so they could fill their shelves, just like any store. Not every shelter is a good place. Most of them are. Most of them I really appreciate, and most of them I think are great. But COVID really showed the dark side of that. Now, I really believe in breeding responsibly. And I believe that you should take a new note if you believe breeders, really, AKC, UKC, FCI, breeders, general breeders, not puppy mills, are the problem here. Because if you really believe that breeders are the problem, then you have not been in enough shelters to see 90% of those dogs are mutts, true mutts, not a planned breeding program like mine. They're truly just some neighbor of yours let their dogs hook up and because they don't want to get their balls cut. Okay? Your neighbor who doesn't want to see, oh my gosh, I can't have my massively tough, cool dog not have his balls. Yeah, you can. In fact, you know what? Some of these vets are the ones that really disgust me. Do you know how easy it is to give a vasectomy to a dog? You don't got to cut their balls off. You don't got to lose their testosterone. We cut balls off because they're lazy, okay? The good old days when you tied them off with a rubber band and just let the nuts fall off. Yeah, that's how even dogs were fixed in the good old days. Now, what you need to realize is we went to this advanced thing of veterinary medicine, and you have a bunch of men. Yes, men. I love you guys. I do love you. But you're really obsessed with your dog losing its balls because you don't want to lose yours. Why does your dog have to lose his balls? Because your veterinarian is irresponsible and doesn't do a vasectomy on your dog. They don't just cut it off and let him keep the nuts. And for their health, let him keep the testosterone and all the other health benefits that having balls on your dog do. Some do. No, what they did, because they wanted to make more money, is you have a bunch of vets that decided to put in plastic balls. Okay, let's put some more contaminants. So they'll fix your dog and then they'll implant some fake balls for you if you really want them. They even have the supersized ones. You can have even bigger balls than your dog had before. Is this responsible? Is this the breeders that are doing this? Is this the breeders that are having the problem? It's not the breeder that's having the problem fixing their dog. In fact, breeders get really mad and they make contracts with people to say, you need to fix that dog. And then the owner doesn't. And it's really expensive. You know how much money it is to have your lawyers enforce every contract you have with a puppy buyer? Most lawyers are $500 to $1,500 an hour. You ever had to pay one? I have. I've had several businesses where I had to pay a lot of money to attorneys. So you think that it's cheap for a breeder to be responsible and follow up on all of this? And then you think they make a bunch of money. So most of the breeders I know, if they do it, they make them as much as, say, a part-time job, right? Yeah, you do have backyard breeders and you have puppy mills. That's not the average. The average dog is not produced in a puppy mill. The average dog is produced by a family. It's a couple of people that have their dog and they bought a purebred and it's got its papers and they love their dog and they breed that dog. That's the average puppy that's a purebred produced. And then they fix their dogs afterwards. Those are my favorite buyers. I love people that just want to have a dog and have one litter with it, and they mean it, and they're responsible. So I'm going to go over our F1 litter that was just like that. They got a purebred Malinois from me. They got one of my Shepsky puppies from me. And then the agreement with her, because that was Freya, she went to a home. That is Drakara's mother. So Drakara's right over there. So we're talking about Drakara's mother is Freya. They bought a male from me and a female from me. They bred those. She was fixed within, I think, probably 5 days after she could. They were so ready to fix her. They loved having their litter of puppies. They were as responsible as they could. They made sure I got the DNA test. Every puppy was DNA tested in that litter. They were so responsible. They were such great people. They kept one of the puppies out of the litter. They have their female fixed. They kept a male. They have both of their males intact, and they know where they're at all times. Those males are approved part of our breeding program. I'm going to have them sent. I'll be putting some videos up of that. But that's Drakara's dad and mom. But they were responsible. So what about the other? So you're so busy online yelling at everybody you can about how responsible their breeding program is, right? It's just not you. Most of you were really supportive. There were some people that were very mean, like mean. For no reason, because adopt, don't shop, you're evil. No, I'm not. Go into those shelters again. I challenge you to go into a shelter and find out how many of them are purebreds. I challenge you. I challenge you to go in there and find out how many of those puppies were some backyard breeder, some irresponsible person that just wasn't even responsible enough to fix their dog. And then you want to yell at the breeders who are the ones that are getting their OFAs, who are getting their hips checked, who are getting their DNA testing done, who are doing their best to breed better and healthier dogs. And those are the evil ones, not your neighbor down the street that just couldn't get his dog fixed? I think you have this wrong. I think you should rethink how you're looking at this. And you should not be judging every single breeder because you have some backyard breeder or some puppy mill you saw on the news one night. How many breeders out there are responsible, good people that care and love their dogs and do their best to breed the next wonderful family member for someone else? And a family member that person will know that their dog is healthy. They'll know the lines. They'll know what that dog went into that dog's breeding and went into their history. Now, I think you should go to shelters. And I think if you have the ability to adopt, I rescue. I always have at least one rescue. Generally, I do go in and I rescue the purebreds. be honest with you. I find a German Shepherd that was poorly bred or poorly done by a breeder, or just the owners got rid of them, and I normally take them in. And I've done that every couple of years. Lost too many of my German Shepherds. Too twisted gut. That big, huge, wonderful rib cage that breeders, yes, again, so we're not going to say everything good about breeders, that breeders just got all fancy pants. Oh, that's so pretty. That big chest cavity, it's so pretty. Let's get it bigger and bigger. Have you seen some German Shepherds? Their rib cage is just crazy. So yeah, there are irresponsible breeders and irresponsible breeding and irresponsible breeding techniques. But that doesn't mean that all breeders are irresponsible. Now, I think overall, American lines of German Shepherds, I think most of those breeders are pretty despicable. And not because they are personally despicable, but because they chose a path of looks that well overrode their good sense. They should have had the good sense to know better. They got these sloping back ends that more and more had paralyzed dogs. I mean, they didn't even have to have degenerative myopathy to go paralyzed. It's because they do some things that cause them to actually have degenerative spine, which is a completely different thing from degenerative myopathy. And they go paralyzed. So do I think all breeders of purebreds are responsible? Hell no. In fact, I think sometimes even the entire breeds clubs can get really off track because they've gotten onto the wrong thing. My dogs are being bred for looks. Absolutely, they're going to be beautiful. But beauty to me is a nice, compact ribcage that makes them healthy. Beauty to me is a nose length that is long enough, not a pug, and yet not too long to be actually useful to the dog. So our breed standards has links that will not allow our breeders to go outside the standard. Most of these standards are very loose. We're going to have a ribcage standard. If you're outside the ribcage, they are not going to be some champion dog in our dog line because it's unhealthy. So if you are mad at the way that they're doing it, you should go after these breed clubs. You should go after AKC. You should go after all these people that have put the wrong emphasis on the wrong things. But at one point, not every breeder of a purebred dog or someone like me who's creating a dog breed is the bad guy. In fact, most of the time, it's you guys sitting in your living room that are the bad guy. And I'd like to say that. You're probably going to get lots of really bad comments about that. But you are so busy trying to say that a responsible purebred dog breeder or someone developing a breed like me is irresponsible that you haven't taken the time to tell your neighbor to fix their dog. Please, tell your neighbor to fix their dog. Before you come on here and yell at me about my dogs, have you told every neighbor on your street to fix their dog? If you live in a state that requires a license for breeding and you know your neighbor is popping out mutts in the backyard with no license, have you turned them into the state? Yeah, turn them into the state. Did I just say that? Yes, I did. So if you want to be responsible, what you need to do is you need to ask yourself, what are you doing to stop irresponsible backyard mutt breeding from the pit bull in the lab down the road? Okay? Because that's really upsetting. And the other thing is tell your breeder friends if you do. Don't be afraid to do something that we do with our dog on our purebreds and on our breedings. We're going to restrict the papers. You're not going to be able to register that dog. And if you try to have puppies with them, I have the legal right to take them away. And I do something a little different than other breeders do. It's called a pre-litigated judgment. What's that? Well, I've done some legal stuff. That means my people sign a paper that says I don't even have to take them to court. If they have violated the rules of the agreement, all I have to do is notify them, and then I'm confiscating my dogs back. Because I have learned my lesson on how much it costs to legally make your puppy buyers be responsible. Because you do your best to choose the good ones. And sometimes it just doesn't work. So what then? So this is a tiny bit of a rant. I got my voice back. And a little bit of grumpiness this morning. Not grumpy, but just a little bit of misconception of what it means to be a responsible breeder. Breeding dogs themselves doesn't make you irresponsible or responsible. The act of having your dogs breed is irrelevant to your responsibility. It's your responsibility level that caused the breeding to happen that is going to deal with those puppies after the breeding. That's where it comes in. So I just really hope that you folks out there that do care, because I do, I do care about it, and I do something about it, that instead of pretending that adopting versus shopping is better, how about pretending that responsible dog breeding is better, and that people who just are irresponsible with their dogs are kind of shitty people. And actually, here's another loose thought for you. There's some really good people, right? You think they're all just, no, they're not. Not every person who had a litter that wasn't registered or wasn't planned is a shitty person. Sometimes circumstance, life, they're kind of just, it happens. It's what you do after that that matters, okay? It's what you do once you've brought puppies into this world that matters. Just like what you do when you bring kids in. Be responsible with what you have developed. And we are doing that. We're doing that at a level that I've not seen any breed club even do. We have legal responsibilities. We have registered DNA. We have all kinds of legal things that we've done that other breeds aren't doing. So do me a favor. Keep caring. Keep caring about what happens to dogs. But make sure you focus that irritation and that ire on the irresponsible people, because they're the ones that deserve it. And you aren't going to fix people who are already responsible. How are you going to fix my program to be more responsible? We DNA test. I do an evaluation on all my puppy homes the best I can. I follow up with all my puppy homes the best I can. I follow up for years afterwards with those same puppy. They might even be frustrated with me. They get a message from me. Sometimes, again, they stop messaging and they do still have the dog. They're just like, oh, come on, lady. Come on, it's 5 years down the road. How many times am I supposed to still talk to you? I just got a dog from you. You're not my lifelong friend. That's how people feel, and they have the right to feel the way. I'm just the dog breeder. But I did produce those puppies, so I want to know what's happening with them. So I still send the text. Even if they didn't respond the year before, I still text again the next year on their birthday and say, how are these puppies doing? What's their health like? What's their life like? And I hope that's what you concentrate on with breeders, okay? There's going to be dog breeders. You're not going to stop it. So stop being mean to people and start helping people learn what it is to be responsible with their dogs, okay? That will make more of a difference. Have a great day. And I will have a regular video. My video next week will be about all my dogs. I'm going to introduce you to all the ones that are currently here as a part of the breeding program. I'm going to show you their DNA. I'm going to explain to you where they are at in the breeding program. And I'm going to explain to you why generally only a dog in our breeding program only has 2 litters because we have a small breeding program. We need to spread out our genetics. So having any dogs have too many puppies ends up spreading their genes over the line too much. And then we end up with that line breeding and inbreeding that other dog breeds have. So our thing is, I'll explain, you'll meet all the dogs, and I wanted you guys to get to see these guys play. These guys are a lot of fun. They all look alike, and there's just a lot of fun. It's this morning playtime. Nothing wrong with watching some dogs play in the morning. But again, I will have a regular episode. This is still an episode, but I'll have a regular educational episode that's about what we're doing in our specific dogs. But again, I respect all of you that care about adopting and not shopping, and I respect all of that. But I hope that you choose to respect how responsible I'm breeding with my program. And if you don't, I can't make you. But really, stop taking this out on the breeders or at most 25% of those shelters you care so much about. And start caring about your neighbor that needs to fix their dog.